Okay, Mr. Conway, welcome back. I appreciate your time.
Oh, absolutely. It's an honor to be here with you, brother.
That was super formal. I think that was the most formal introduction I've ever done in my life. But anyway, um, so I am super interested to hear about the games coming out of the arse end of obviously COVID and in the fine wine division.
That's a great description. Fine wine division. I think that should be the title, in fact.
That's it, mate. You know what I mean? Bordeaux, little aged wine. Sounds good.
Nothing better, man.
Yeah. So how was it? How was the experience? Like we said, like literally like 2 minutes ago, you are a super busy bloke. So how's the putting pause and then going on and doing some adult PE with all your mates and then press and play again? Like how is it?
Look, man, honestly, it was a great time. Like you mentioned, it's like really getting out and having recess with the homies, right? Like I got to connect with some folks that I hadn't seen in a long time, especially due to COVID. There was a few seminar staff members there that I got to spend several days with and compete alongside, and a lot of old friends and old faces that I competed against in years ago. So overall, it was an amazing experience. I think that the CrossFit games, like from the back end side, getting to see that again, honestly, was pretty remarkable. And what I mean by that is, like, of course, the amount of volunteers that are necessary for that event to take place in itself. And then, of course, the judges and all those aspects that are easily overlooked when you're not in the back. And in thinking about it, with a new title sponsor and post COVID, I thought from an execution standpoint, and then of course as a participant standpoint, the games were like flawlessly executed this year. Like they did a wonderful job. And then I don't know if you realize this or not, but in that fine wine division, man, well, I guess it's more than the fine wine division because we're grouped with the other age groups, right? But there's like 600 athletes alone in like the adaptive, in the teen, and in the masters division. So it's like, man, they got to do a lot of babysitting to get us all where we need to be on time. So I was impressed.
Yeah, especially you've got to you need a little bit more time warming up. It's not like 5 minutes, boys, you're on. It's like, wait, hold on. I need to get the joints lubricated. I need to stretch. I need to slowly get on an assault bike. Yeah, man. I think the masters, the adaptive divisions, and the teens. So everything outside of the main games blows my goddamn mind. I'm like, what are human beings capable of? You know what I mean? You put any barrier in front of them, and they're just gonna run through it head first, and it's crazy, and it's really cool to see from a spectator point the level each year just creeping up, because we know the quote unquote the main body of the games is just going to keep going up, right? We expect that. We know what that's like. Even just in a normal box, we know that's going to keep going every year. But kids are getting younger and better. People are getting older and better. People are coming in with an arm and a leg missing and getting better. And You're like, wait, hold on a minute. Like, what's going on? So that's awesome to see from a spectator point of view.
Oh yeah, man. And it's amazing to be back there with those guys and conversing with them and listening to their stories and of course where they come from. And then of course you get into the fact that like a lot of us, especially in the masters category specifically, it's like, man, we got full-time jobs, we own brands or start companies, or we got, a large family at this point. And it's like, man, the way you can rely on your previously years accumulated fitness and then still have that there, it's a really, I think, great lesson, honestly, to a lot of the younger demographics, whether you're a competitor or not. Like the time that you put in the gym really matters. And you might not realize it right away, but like, even if, for me, I hadn't competed at the CrossFit Games since 2017. It's 2021. And there was a year after 2017 where literally I was doing like no fitness, gotten some of the most worst conditioning of my life. And then I've just slowly brought it back. And so for me, it's like to realize that like you really do build that buffer against age and decrepitude by like getting as strong and as fit as you can be. And then if something happens or you can't go to the gym for a year, or, you're severely sick or injured, like you got a better chance of coming back than anybody else. And I think you see that directly in the masters category, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I believe so. Like that's hit the nail on the head with something that they teach in I think it's the level one when they do the illness, wellness, fitness continuum. And I remember when Carl Steadman, absolute boss of a flow master explained through that, and it blew my mind. I was like, holy shit, yeah, that makes complete sense. I was like, that is why we're trying to tick it over towards that right hand side, towards the fitness side, so we've got more of a buffer when, you know, COVID happens, when we get a little
Exactly.
injured, when time restraints in. Oh no, you can't. You can only spend 12 minutes in the gym today rather than 72. You know, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I've got to do a little less, but you've got that buffer.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely true, man. And you see it there, especially even as the age groups get going into that latter part where it's like, man, the 60 and 65-year-olds, your mind is blown at one, how you know dominant they look physically. Like you look at them literally and you're like, man, that's a really fit individual.
Mm.
And then of course you see what they can do out there on the field or on the floor, and it's impressive.
Yeah, looking impressive is one thing, right? And then going
Right.
out and being able to back it up at that age, you're like, wait, hold on a minute. Like that goes against everything we've ever learned, and people are proving it on a daily basis. You're like, okay, we kind of need to rewrite the rule book here and just get back in the goddamn gym.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
So you touched on the balancing act, right? When you've with a three-prong approach of adult PE, the games, the fitness, the training, running the business, and actually working for a living, i.e., paying the bills and putting food on the table, and then family, right? So I always say you've got like everything comes in threes, right? So that's where your energy goes. So how do you balance all
I think for me, it's more simple than it is complex. Meaning, like, you know, I'm a pretty faith-driven individual, so I think I've learned a lot through learning from others, and Scripture teaches me to keep first things first. So, you know, when I'm in a good space, balance-wise in my life, honestly, it's when I prioritize my relationship with God, because all of a sudden I'm a way better husband to my wife, and I do naturally prioritize her that way. You know what I mean? As much as it's not always easy,
that? Hmm.
I recognize that that's my role as a husband. And then of course my children come second to her. And then it's business and work and external things that provide for us, whether it's short term or long term. And then and only then is it fitness and training. You know what I mean? And there was a time in life where it was like fitness and training were kind of adjacent to work because they were a means of providing. But nowadays, man, it's definitely the last thing considered. But you know, my wife is understanding, as well as my partners in our business here, of, you know, but my fitness has helped build our brand. And
Yep.
so, you know, they encourage me to get out there and throw my hat in the ring. And of course, spend a little extra time in the gym if I can, or if I need to. And the wife is the same way. You know, actually, I blame her for me going back to the CrossFit Games, because last summer when we were bored with COVID attacking us all, she was like, "Oh, you know, it'd be fun to go back to the games." And I was like, "Are you sure? Do you really mean that? Like I can go back and compete at the games?" And then so I was like, "Okay, maybe I'll go ahead and make a run and see if we can get back."
Mm. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Like prioritizing those time and saying, right, what's number one, what has to be, what is above all else, you know, and then and being able to set out the time from that is so important. And I'm really appreciative you use the word faith, because so many people get it mixed up, right? They're like, oh, faith is a certain thing. And I'm like, no, it's anything. It's anything for you that kind of sets you apart, and you believe in something bigger than yourself. You know, you have faith in something
Absolutely.
that it's something true. And I don't know, it's talking to some people, listening to some people, reading some things, there's a bad connotation. There's a bit of taste in the mouth at this moment in time, and it doesn't make sense to me, because it's like we all understand there is something bigger than ourselves, right? And people would usually answer yes, and I'm like, well, that's faith. Like, it doesn't have to be about a big guy in the sky. It doesn't have to be about spirits and ghosts or aliens or anything. You know, it could be so minute, or it could be about the greater good. It is just one word: faith, about something bigger than yourself. And that's something personal that I was really grateful that you used that word.
Oh, absolutely, man. I appreciate you recognizing that, and I think we're we're like-minded when it comes to that. You know what I mean? I got my faith in what I proclaim as my faith, and you'll have yours and others will have theirs. And I think what's most important is that, like you mentioned, is kind of like that greater good perspective, where it's like, hey, we are humans, and that no matter what we have in common, the best way for us all to be happy is to try to love one another and optimally serve one another with our lives. Because if it was just meant for us to be on this earth alone, we probably would be. And clearly that's not the case. So we kind of need each other, no matter how different we are. So I think there's some really cool synergy there in what we're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And we all, like, if you dive into things, like, we all say the same thing, we just use different words.
Yep.
You
It's
know?
true. It's so true. And then we argue about the differences of those words.
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly, human beings are crazy, crazy animals. Like, they like to draw lines in the sand, you know what I mean? And I'm from this side, you're from that side. I was like, it's the
Yep.
same beach.
Yep.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's so true. It's like it makes me consider, like, is that just a defense mechanism that we have innately, like territorial almost? Like, if you're not like me in this way, then I got to guard myself or defend myself or put up barriers or whatever it is. But yeah, I'm always curious about that, and I tend to sit back and watch more human interactions than I actually get involved in, just because I'm always like, you know what, I don't want no piece of that. But I saw a funny like meme. It wasn't a meme, it was a post that a lot of people have quoted and posted that was like, hey, if you're bored with your life, post something political, and then just watch people spend their whole day arguing back and forth, and you can just watch it happen. You know what I mean? Like, so funny.
Oh, politics, dude. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. Like, whatever,
Hey,
man.
we don't even got to go that way.
No, whatever. Do whatever you want to do. Faith, that's full stop. That's all you need in whatever sense,
That's it.
The workout that stood out for me in the games was the wall walk and the heavy thruster. I thought
Brutal.
that was really cool, yet really disgusting.
Yep. It was, brother. I'll be honest with you. So, as you know, we're out for quote unquote opening ceremonies. For us, that means we were already getting ready for event like 5 for us. We were about to close out day 2, right? During opening ceremonies. And Dave makes the announcement of that workout for the individuals. They were going to do it that night. And then the masters, we found out we're doing it as event 9. So for us, the final on Thursday. And at the time, he didn't disclose exactly the details for us, but he was like, you guys will do a version of this. So we all were kind of under the assumption, and we're chatting about it in the back, where it's like, cool, we'll probably just do a lighter barbell, for the thrusters. And then it comes out and he's like, no lighter barbell. You guys are also going to thruster 185, 125. You're just going to do 10, 8, 6, 4, 2 with a shorter time cap. And I was like, okay, I like the heavy thruster. And then, man, those wall walks with the thruster just mashed your midline enough where it was like that thruster was already heavy, but it felt exponentially heavier. And then, of course, your triceps were just smoked. And for us at the end of a weekend, or the end of a week, it was like, man, I hardly had anything left overhead. But it was a fun workout, I will say, in a very sick way. But I'll be doing a lot of wall walks this off season. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, for sure. I think everyone got mashed in the face when that came out. And it came out on the open, right?
Yeah, that was a week 1 workout. That and double unders.
And double unders. That was it. Yeah, it absolutely mashed people. They were like, "What is this? Like, I'm tripping on a double under because I'm so fatigued and can't raise my arms." Like, yeah, I think everyone in the world is going to be going into the local Globo gym and walking up the wall, and the bodybuilders are going to be looking at them like, the fuck is going on? Like,
exactly.
We have machines, but we are the machines, as we know.
Right. Oh yeah, man. No, that was a humbling workout for sure. Because I just had in my mind that it wasn't going to be very metabolic, right? Like, because you just think of the stimulus of a wall walk and you're like, okay, it's kind of a slower movement. You're using the wall as leverage. If you do it right, you can try to save a little bit of energy. But that back and forth between that unique stimulus of the heavy thruster, like if the thruster would have been lighter and we could move faster, I still think it would have been an easier workout, right? Like less suffering. But that the weight on the bar coupled with that movement was a beautifully programmed workout. I'll say that. Not my favorite, but great programming.
Yeah, I did look at it and I was like, oh, okay, that's a cool workout. And then read the weights. I was like, holy shit, that's gonna suck. That's
Yeah.
gonna really suck.
Yeah, it was nasty. It was nasty, but fun.
So what was your favorite one for the games this year?
Man, for us as a age group, I would say workout, workout, I think it was workout 4. So day 1 or day 2, workout 1. It was 80 calorie bike, 42 weighted GHD sit-ups, 42 double dumbbell front squats, 50 pounds in each hand for the guys, 35 for the ladies. Then we had to do a 30-yard handstand walk. Or no, I'm sorry. Yes, it was 30 yards. You could do it in 15-yard segments though. So, if you had to break it up, you could break that one time without having to go all the way back to the start. Into another 42 sandbag squats with 150 pounds for the men and 100 for the ladies, and then another 30-foot handstand walk to the finish. So it was a chipper style workout, kind of like a grinder, loading wise, with some lighter squats early and then heavier squats to follow, which I think messed with a lot of people's mindset and how they were going to attack that workout. And yeah, it was my best finish too. I finished second in that one. So it was a good workout for me.
Absolutely solid. I mean, we have brushed over it, but what was your overall placing in the old games, just so everyone knows?
Yeah. So I finished third this year in the 35 to 39 division.
Absolutely. Like 4 years out of the games, hadn't really done anything. Then the missus goes, you know what, you're annoying me. Go do some more PE. I was like, you know
It
what,
probably is what it was.
I'm gonna start doing some fitness again. Next thing you know, standing on the podium. Absolutely fantastic, mate. Like, it's hats off.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man, honestly. And when you get third in something, you're always like, oh man, I really should have done X or Y or Z to get first. But I'm pleased with it, I gotta say. And I am I'm happy with the effort that I put forth, especially with the way that I prepared for it. And then, I wouldn't rather take third to two better dudes than, Kyle and James, just two stand-up guys that I loved competing alongside. So it was a great outcome.
100%, and it's definitely better than fourth, right?
That's right. That's right.
We had this thing. I remember because it always used to piss me off when I was a kid. I used to swim as a kid, like way back in the day, and used to get obviously gold, silver, bronze, and then used to get a ribbon for fourth. And I think I fucking don't know why they gave a ribbon out, but anyway, they gave a ribbon out, and it was like 2 years in a row. Pretty much every event I came in fourth, and I took home all these bloody ribbons, mate.
Oh no.
I'm still fuming about it now, but anyway, I
Yeah, I
was.
can tell. I can tell. Look, you're still upset about the ribbons. You wanted some hardware. I get it. I
I'm
get
like,
it.
come on, give me something, or don't give me anything. You know what I mean? I don't want no ribbon. Like, you save the silk.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. That's funny, man. Yeah,
Yeah, for
that
sure.
competitive nature in us all, man. And at least, from a perspective, it's like, yeah, you want to get on the podium. Because even when a backstory too is in 2015, even when I qualified for the games as an individual, I wasn't standing on the podium. I stood on fourth place to qualify for the game. So for me as an individual, this is the highest games finish. It's not the same as winning it on a team, but it's the highest games finish that I've had as a third placer. So I'll take it. It's a step in
Mm.
the right direction.
So what would you say for yourself is the biggest difference, like intrinsically, going as an individual and then going as team?
Um, I would say the biggest difference is the dependency of your teammates, or like yeah, it's them depending on me, honestly, right, and me depending on them. So I think that a lot of people assume that going team is easier, and it can be, like, physically, because sometimes the events just aren't as challenging. Now, you're there still competing against the best in the world. So in order to win an event, you got to, perform extraordinarily. And that takes a lot physically. But when it comes to the mindset and mentality, it's like, for me, especially at this stage in my career, I'm okay and content with my best. Right. Uh, but if you put me out on the floor with three other people that are depending on me to get onto the podium, or they're depending on me to win, or whatever it is, in my mind, my best isn't really good enough. Like, I need to perform extraordinarily for them. because to me, somehow in this team type mindset that I have, I owe that to them, right? For the work they've put in, for the work we've put in together, maybe the sacrifices that we've all made. And so I think it pulls just that little bit more from me personally than going individual ever would, because I see myself differently, when I'm there as a unit. And I think it's kind of like almost this thing for a lot of people. And if people haven't experienced it, you got to experience it to some degree. You might view yourself as an individual athlete, but you get yourself out there with the right group, man, you'll die for them. And to me, it's almost created some superpowers, and I think that's the value for me on a team, is that like I perform better, and I know it's because I'm stepping up for them and not just for myself.
100%. And that goes back to football, right?
I think so. You'd like to think so. And man, football, it's even harder, right? Because there's 10 other guys on the field other than you every single play. And it's like, man, just do your job. And it gets trying that way.
Yep.
But I do think that that's certainly where it originated for me, is being a big team sports guy, basketball and football growing up, and having that background for sure.
100%. And you literally would die for your teammates, and then working out as even in a pairs competition, a local box throwdown, just working
Yeah.
out with one other buddy. You're like, nope, I am willing to sacrifice my left kidney for this. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna throw it all on the line. And it's like, well, hold on, like you don't have to cough up a lung, to win
Right.
a free can of Fit Aid. Like it's gonna be okay. But you put someone else in the mix, whoo, you're going hard.
No, it's true, man. And you know what? Greg Glassman alluded to this long ago when he started CrossFit. But he stated in like one of the articles way back, he's like, if you're rowing 500 meters and no one's present, you're just going to row whatever pace you want. But if you're rowing at 500 meters and even your dog is sitting over your shoulder, you will row faster. Like, it's just the way it goes, right? It's the presence of that other person and then the power of community, that I think draws the best out of us.
Yeah, men will die for points, right?
You know it. That's it.
Like the points don't get you anything, but if I'm getting a point out of it, I will die for that point. You're like, oh dear,
Yeah.
here we go.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to need to put that into practice with my kids, with cleaning the house and doing stuff as they get older. I'm going to just motivate my son with like, hey man, there's points on the board. You better make it happen.
Yeah. So what does that get me? Yeah, it doesn't matter. There's points. It's like
We'll find out. Yeah.
I'm doing it. Yeah, that's so true. Like it taps into that psyche, right? And I always remember playing sport. If someone else is around, even if we're in the weight room or we're out on a game, I will go. I'll lay it all out. I'll be like, I will need to be stretched off this goddamn pitch before I will leave. Which has got me into some pretty tricky situations when you're seriously concussed and you carry on. But that's a different story.
Yeah. That you need to have the right people surrounding you that talk you off the edge. That's all. You got to have a couple coaches or like teammates that'll be like, bro, you're good. Just chill out. Go to the sideline. You're good to go.
Take a knee.
But I do think that your question even brings me to like the topic of like some athletes relish more with even more of that attention and some shy away. You know what I mean? Like if there's a lot of people, I mean, I've got athletes that I work with right now that I know if there's a crowd and I hand them a barbell and address them with a workout, like they will almost perform it like a different human than if they're just in the gym alone, and I mean, like they'll rise to a new level because they're performers, and then on the same scope, it's like sometimes there's people that do so well in the gym when it's less people watching, they have privacy, they're just kind of in the training mindset versus the competition mindset. And then you put them in front of that crowd and it could go the opposite way. So it's so interesting to know that like we each kind of got our own different flavor, and a lot of it's due to experience, but you see it both sides.
Yeah, and it's really hard coaching someone to compete who's a training athlete, right? Who thrives in that kind of empty gym, maybe one-on-one, the coach is around, but not really doing anything, or people aren't really paying attention. You're just doing your own thing, yet wants to go compete. Like that's really hard to try and break that mindset and break that habit of there's going to be people watching you, like especially CrossFit, because you do some crazy shit and people want to watch. And then you bring it over to like a strength sport and you say like weightlifting, like everyone is watching you. Like you're the only person on that platform with the hands on the bar.
Yep.
It's like it's hard, man. How would you coach someone like that? So putting on a coach's hat.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think a lot of it is about communication and, of course, presentation. So, with athletes that commonly lack that kind of experience, visualization is key. I think that they have to have the ability to, whether you as a coach paint that picture for them or that story, sometimes on a day-to-day basis when they're in the gym, you pause the music, you pause things, you put them on camera and you say, okay, this is your audience. I'm your judge. Like, establish a max in 7 minutes. Let's go. Or you get 3 attempts at a snatch. You got to start at 70%. You choose how to go up and go down. Like, you find new ways to put pressure on them. And then I think a lot of it is it's daily habits and routines, even if it's about journaling, and writing down like what bothers you about a crowd, right? And addressing those fears.
Mhm.
And then you face them headlong, right? So you talk about them with the athlete and you're like, okay, so you might be embarrassed if you miss a lift, but what's going to happen if you miss that lift? And then they talk about what the results are there. And then, what the results are if then they score 0 on that workout. And then what the results are if they don't make the podium. And essentially what you do is you get to the crux of why do you do this? And why do those people matter? Right. And if it's about your friends and family feeling let down, and then you get back to the root of like, they're still going to always love you and admire you for the effort you put in, all of a sudden, maybe that missed lift doesn't matter as much and they feel less pressure. And so I think it's really, and of course, those are like long drawn out conversations to have with your personal athlete, and everybody got to be approached a different way. But I think it's really just dumbing those fears down and giving them no power. And then all of a sudden, hopefully it changes from this, worry and fear into an excitement and an opportunity instead.
Oh yeah, man. Like and journaling is such a powerful tool, right? You can the process of bringing it to life, bringing a thought to life and putting it into words, even if the words together don't make sense into a sentence, like you will reread your own thoughts and be like, oh, that's really daft, and just kind of push that to the side, or be able to, oh, that needs addressing, and kind of see the holes in it to then go forward. And I think journaling is a big thing now, but it needs to be a little bit more of a big thing in terms of like the athlete side. It's like journal how you feel. Don't just journal your bloody workouts. Like you're not a robot, you're not someone who comes on, we're going to do 3x10. We're going to do this Metcon. Then we're going to do this midline conditioning. And then I'm going to go home. I'm going to eat this. I'm going to weigh it out. I'm like, yeah, that's fantastic. We've got that. You're like a machine. However, have you dealt with the human side? Have you dealt with the humanity, the feelings, and all that? And just waking up, writing it on a piece of paper. You don't even need to show anyone. You can burn it if you want to, whatever. That really does help people move forward, and I've seen it help people move forward too. And it's cool that you think the same way.
Yeah, man. No, absolutely, dude. And I really think, I mean, I've had athletes too, like you mentioned about this not being a machine thing, that where it's like, as a coach, athletes think they should say what I want to hear, right? Meaning that
Yeah.
I will ask an athlete, hey, how you feeling today? And they're always like, I'm good. I feel, I'm ready. I'm good. What's on the docket today? Like, what do I need to do? And I'm like, no, really, like, how are you feeling? How's your shoulder? They'll be like, it's good. And I'll be like, no, but really, like, is it bothering you? Yeah, it's a little sore. Okay. So let's explore what that sore feels like. Should we move forward with this? Is it going to create any kind of further issues? Like, it's not about pretending that everything's okay. It's accepting like when they're not, and still being okay with that. Right. And then of course, yeah, we got to work around it, or we have to deal with battling, changing our expectations from day to day or session to session or competition to competition because of those things. Because inevitably they're going to have to do that in the heat of battle, right? In the heat of competition. And if not with anyone else, they have to be honest with themselves. So I think it's really powerful for athletes to really do that with their coaches too, and coaches be able to ask the right questions. Because, I mean, I came from a sport where in football, you show no weakness, right? I don't want to be a liability to my team. So I'm going to try not to limp, even though my ankle's hurting. I don't want someone else to take my spot. Like, so these are things I had to learn as well, with that transparency and vulnerability. And I think it makes you a better athlete when you can connect with them.
For sure. And we also idealize the people that will go through and play through injury, right? And you're like, okay, is it commendable? In a way, yes. Like you've done that for your team, you've done that for the brotherhood. We've both been in that situation where you would literally die for those people. And I would do it again, and I'm sure you would do it again too. But at the same time, if it's training, it needs to be completely different. It's like, how do we adapt so we can still progress without making something worse? And I think that just comes with athletic maturity or coaching maturity too, of being able to like assess and look at your athlete and be like, right, we need to adapt this slightly, so we don't just wear them into the ground and send them into the Coliseum already battered and bruised.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And a lot of that's trusting the process, which is sometimes hard to do. Like experienced athletes might have an idea what that really feels like. And, that's even into some training methodologies with like tapering. Tapering is hard to do for a lot of CrossFit athletes. They're so addicted to pain, suffering, and working out. They don't really know how to properly taper, nor have they ever really given themselves a chance to see what their peak actually is and feels like. But again, I've fallen guilty to that many times where it's like, okay, coach thinks I should do this. I'm gonna just add this little thing in because I feel like I need it. And just because you feel like you need it doesn't mean you do. And it might save you and create a whole new capacity or an opportunity to perform on the big stage when you're really fresh. Because you don't even know what that feels like. You know what I mean? But it's hard to do. So I get it.
Yeah, you get used to feeling a little bit worn out, feeling tired, feeling a bit drained, a bit lethargic, and like your concentration levels goes a little bit. That becomes the new normal. That becomes reality. And you're like, dude, like that's not how you should be functioning. Like you should be
No.
absolutely tip top all the way up here. So we need to look at those markers and be able to change some things, like to make you better.
Absolutely.
It's hard to be able to get, especially kids, it's hard to get those to trust into that process though, man, because we look onto the telly and we kind of assess the development programs out there, and it's like you either do it right now or you're done. See you later. Like you get one shot, and if they think everything rides on that one shot, especially kids from a lower decile area, that it's like, well, I'm gonna look after my family through me playing sport. Like if I've only got one shot, I will train 5 times a day, and I don't
Yep.
care what your body is saying, you will just go through it, right? And then ultimately, if they don't progress through to the next level, then they've screwed themselves over for the future, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
it's a you're sailing a sinking ship.
It's very true.
Mm,
It's very true. Yeah, and it's hard. And it is hard because you understand, right? You understand why they feel that way, and you understand why some of the greatest athletes come from those situations and circumstances because mentally they're unbeatable. They physically will try to tolerate anything. And in certain sports, I really believe that you can get away with more. CrossFit just isn't one of them. You know what I mean? Like we are so dependent now upon movement quality and efficiency. If you want to last in this sport, that you can train like that for 4 years, but in those 4 years, you're probably not coming in fit enough to make it to the games right away. And then if you do, you might get that 1 year shot where you get a chance to qualify because now your fitness is there. But is it sustainable and will you ever go back? And I think that's why we see some of the top competitors that do it right and get the proper tutelage, and they've lasted for years. They've competed several times. They do amazing things. And then, of course, every year we get several of, one-hit wonders or people that get really close a lot, but can't really punch their ticket again and again. And it's either they don't find new ways to reinvent themselves or they're just literally kind of constantly beat down and barely getting by.
hmm Well, take yourself for example. Like you move well and are able to come back and place third. You know what I mean? And push that card of the best individual finish that you've done, even in the fine wine category. And
Yeah.
that's because you move well. You do the little things well. It's not just I'm just going to run through a brick wall harder than anyone else. I was like, well done. Like you're going to do really well for a year, but you're probably going to leave the ass end of that season so banged up that you might not come back next year. Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I got to tell you, Alex, I have been there. right? Like that was me when I started this sport. And then I always tried to focus on moving well, but I was still the guy that was like, no, you know what? If so-and-so's doing this, I will do another session. I will do more.
Yeah.
I will build this capacity. So then I have the confidence on the floor to win when the time has come. And what I did is I learned it a very hard way in 2014, missing regionals because I tore my pec practicing a workout literally 3 days before the regional in 2014, which in my opinion, I was the fittest I'd ever been, but I was a little overtrained and overreached, and I couldn't let back off the throttle enough as I needed to that final week prior, and trusting my fitness. So I really learned that lesson the hard way, and that's really what I echo to anyone willing to listen, but especially those athletes that I work with through our platform called True. And then also any one-on-one athlete I have. It's like, I've been there, learn from me, don't have to learn the hard way, trust the process, rest and focus on, like you said, moving very well and doing the common uncommonly well. Like we state all the time in CrossFit, do the basics better than everybody else and you'll have a great chance in winning.
Yep. Master the basics. And then when you think you've mastered them, strip it back and do it again.
That's it.
Like it's so true. Dude, I won't take any more of your time. Your missus will be blowing your phone up and mine. So I don't want to have to deal with that. She is the boss. So thank you very much for your time. If people want to find
Absolutely,
you,
brother.
where would you send them?
Oh man, they can look at a few places. You could always follow me on Instagram at Adrian Conway _. And then you can follow along with our supplement brand and our journey at FNX _fit on Instagram. So a lot of stuff going on both those channels. I try to keep everybody in the loop. Newest thing I'm trying to do is October 9th, I'll be running a full marathon. So first time ever.
Wow.
Letting it rip.
Good
Just,
luck.
hey, why not? I want to seek a new challenge, and I have no idea how my body will respond at anything over 2 hours long. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, like use your fitness, right?
That's it, man. That's it.
And I have to say, still, hands down, I have never had a greens powder better than the FNX greens powder to this day. I'm trying to find one better, dude, and I can't find one.
I love it. Hey, no need to keep searching, bro. You can just keep coming back to the right source. We got you. Don't worry.
That's it. That's totally right. That's totally right. Right, man. You go have some dinner. I'll speak to you soon.
All right, brother. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Peace.